There we go. Hey, this is Mr. York. This is part 6 of 6 in gate photography. Today I'm going to talk about my website, and let's pull it up right here. You'll notice that if you go over to photography, these things should be here for you guys anytime you want to see them. These are all of the classes that we've had. They're very difficult to watch, I know. But today I want to show you a couple of things that I just threw up there. These are settings for headshots. Today we're talking about portraiture and how to actually take a picture of somebody's face. It's going to be greatly influenced by how your person poses. So one of the things that we haven't talked about, we've talked a lot about settings, but we haven't talked about posing. These are the settings that you guys are going to put into your camera to take a headshot. Now I could give you a whole thing on posing, but I think Peter Hurley does a better job anyhow, so I put a reference there to Peter Hurley, who's a professional photographer, and he talks about your jawline. You probably don't think about what you look like when someone takes your picture, because you're not models, and neither am I. But when I do, I usually sit up straight. I usually try to make sure that my jawline is tight, because if I go back like this, it's not going to look very good, right? And the mistake that we normally see from people is that they'll actually suck in. They're like, oh, I got to suck in my gut, so I look trim. And when they do that, what happens? Their chin goes down. What you want to do is almost lean forward. If you guys take a look at the example that I have up on the screen right now, take a look at this woman right here. She's looking up at her husband. You'll notice that her neck and her chin are all perfect because they're extended out. You want to do that every time. You're kind of looking forward, and sometimes they say almost to put your forehead forward. You're pointing your forehead if you can. Some people say your chin, but I feel like that gives you kind of a weird effect. So you have to kind of do what works best to communicate with the person that you're taking a picture of. What is consistent are the settings. The settings are right there. For a full frame camera, which I know we're not shooting full frame, but just to let you know, it's ISO 200, 1/125th, f6 at a focal point of about 100. That's typically what we want. Now the problem with that is that we're not shooting full frame, and also this is only good if you're in the shade with the sun behind you at a particular time of day. Otherwise, you have to adjust everything, right? You're going to have to adjust your ISO. The only thing that usually doesn't get adjusted is your well, not everything. I should say you always have to adjust your ISO. The only thing that doesn't get adjusted is your f-stop and your shutter speed. Almost every time I see a portrait, it's at 1/125th. Almost every time that I see a portrait, it's at the lowest f-stop that you can get, which for most of these lenses is like 3.5 to 5.6, somewhere around there. And the reason that you want 5.6 is that it allows you to have the background kind of blurred, and it gets your shallow depth of field that we've been talking about. This is my website, and I just want to show you that there's a whole posing tips page here that you can take a look at. And if you look at it, I talk a lot about posing and photography. And you look at the difference between this model right here. She's sucking it in. She's got her chin down. It looks terrible. If you look at it here, she looks great. And she's got that jawline that you're looking for. When you go down here, scroll down a little bit, there's a picture of me with uneven lighting. And that's the other problem. So where do you want to be when you're taking a picture of somebody? You want to be in the shade with the sun, highlighting their hair probably. There's a couple of different ways to do it, but in general, that's pretty much what you want. I think it's easier to shoot in the shade, and if you want to, you can even turn the flash on. A lot of people hate flash, but it's kind of up to you and how you want to do it. Play around, see what you like best. So the other thing I was going to talk to you guys about today is macro photography. And I gave you guys a whole bunch of examples of this. I want to refer back to some of the examples I showed you guys earlier. And I'll show you these again real quick. What do all these pictures have in common? We looked at some of these before. What do they all have in common? Yeah. Right, the background is really blurred. They have a super shallow depth of field. We know exactly where the focus point is. And we use this, what we call detail photography or product photography. And I want to kind of show you how to do that today, and you guys can give that a shot. We're going to try a couple different lenses and see if we can make that work today. Okay, once again, this is Mr. York. We're talking about macro photography and portraiture. And we just talked about portraiture a little bit. I've got my Canon 80D. Who remembers the settings? You only saw them once, huh? I said to you guys that your shutter speed is almost always the same. What did I say it was? Anybody remember?
1/125.
1/125th of a second. So I'm going to put that on right here. About that. Is that cool? Then you can zoom right here too. Okay, so we saw that's at 1/125th of a second. What should your f-stop be?
5.6.
5.6. So I'm going to take this. There we go. Tell me if you can see it. Is that too close?
No, it's not close enough. There.
Right there?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to take this. I'm going to change this to 5.6. And when you're outside, what should your ISO be? Does anybody remember the Sunny 16 rule?
Yeah.
Right? That says that outside, bright light like we have right now. Sunny 16 rule says that at f16, we should be at ISO 100, right? The problem is we changed that in order to make sure that our depth of field is more shallow. If we do that, if we open up our aperture so that it's at 5.6 rather than clamp down at f16, is that going to let in more light or less light?
More.
More light. The wider open it is, the more light's coming in. So we've got a real problem there, and we may have to adjust some of our other factors to make it work. But remember, that's why it doesn't work to take someone's picture in broad daylight. If I were to take somebody outside right now where it's super bright, and you were to try and take a picture, what would it look like? Would it look good?
No.
Have you ever tried to pose in that light? Right? You guys take selfies in that light, you're like, can't handle too much sun, right? You guys look like vampires. So what you want to do is get into the shade. And then you can have that setting with the open aperture, trying to let more light in, it'll be fine. If you're out in broad daylight, it's going to be a real problem. So ISO on mine right now, I'm going to set to 200, and that's about where we should be shooting it. Once we've got our settings, the other piece to this is point of focus. So last week I talked to you guys about the different focus points. This camera has more than 9. The other last, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we were talking about how to change your focus point. This one's nice because it's a touch screen. I literally have a little button right here for it. This is the Canon 80D. It's one of my favorite cameras for crop sensor. It's weather sealed. It's a nice camera. If I click on that button, automatically it allows me to check single point focus. I'm going to show you this real quick. See if you can see that. And then what I can do is I can touch a point over here. Now I can't show you what it looks like inside, but imagine if I turn the camera like this, right? And I'll let you guys see that too. If I pick a point over here and I'm shooting portrait style, I can take that point of focus and put it right on someone's face. Usually what you want to do is put it right on their eye. Now in here, obviously these settings aren't going to work. And she's got the light to the back of her. So if I shoot a picture like that, I'm going to have to flash it, right? That's not going to work. So when we get outside, I'll kind of coach you guys through that. But in general, we put those settings together. We adjust them if we need them. If you want to do it with flash, you can try that and see what it looks like. And you want to do single point focus and put the point right on their face. If I'm going to take a picture of something really detailed, I'm going to do almost the same thing. I'm going to use single point focus. I'm going to put it right in the center, depending on what it is I want in focus. I'm going to zoom in until I fill the screen with that item, whatever it is. In this case, I'm going to turn the ISO way up too, because I'm inside, right? And I'm going to take a detail shot of this cool saxophone we've got here. Or what does Homer Simpson call it? Can you remember that? No? The honky McFlute. That's what you call a saxophone? No? Alright, never mind. Alright, so I've got my ISO way up. I'm actually going to take it up a little bit further just so I can get... It actually looks pretty cool, but I'm going to try a little bit different. There. Okay, so check out what we got. That's a detail shot. Now I'm inside. The lighting's not fantastic in here. It's kind of weird, actually. You want to see it real quick? Can you have the camera see it?
Yeah, there.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
You see it all right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you can see shallow depth of field. Can you guys picture this on the cover of, like, I don't know, a music book or something? Some text over here and over there. That's what we use our macro photography for. Cool stuff. The closer I get to one side, the more in focus that part's going to be, and the more out of focus the rest of it's going to be. Now with that point of focus, I can pick what's going to be in focus. Do you guys see that? If I wanted, I could have the rest of it in focus over here. All I have to do is pick that point. But do you see how this is in focus, the rest is not?
Yeah.
Check it out. I think that worked out pretty well. Is it too dark or can you see it okay?
Yeah, it can see it.
Okay, is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay, see what I'm doing there? Do you see the part that's in focus and the part that isn't? That's what single point focus does. That's a shallow depth of field. It looks pretty cool, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And often, I don't know if you have a music book with you, but we might see these on like advertisements. If you have one of your music books, they might have it. What's rule number 1?
Always protect.
Always protect the equipment. Everybody say it. Always?
Always protect the equipment.
Thank you so much. I'm going to take some of the other cameras. I'm going to ask you guys to bring the cameras over here. We're going to put some of the other lenses on them. I want everyone to try taking a picture of somebody in the shade outside, and then also take a picture of something inside that demonstrates that shallow depth of field. Remember, if you want shallow depth of field, make sure that you have a low or a high f-stop. Low f-stop is wide open, that's a lower number, right? So keep that in mind. If you want everything in focus, high f-stop.